You're listening to Sharky on sharkgoeschomp. Tonight, we have a story submitted by a subscriber by the name of Jane, entitled Uncle Dickie's Grave. Growing up as a child, my family would do yearly trips to Pennsylvania to visit family. Most of them were great aunts and uncles. And as a kid, I never really wanted to spend too much time with them. I just wanted to be off exploring. There weren't that many kids around, just me and my cousin, who was 2 years older than me. Her name was Charlene, but everybody just called her Chucky. My family owns a dairy farm and a lot of property, so my great aunt's house, my great grandmother's, and the dairy farm were all within walking distance of each other, less than half a mile. As a kid, Chucky and I would play in the woods in between the houses, playing hide-and-go-seek and tag and all the silly things children did at that age. We did this each summer when we were visiting, but always had a blast. One summer, during a visit, I was about 11 years old. We were being silly and playing hot lava. This is where we pretended that the ground was lava, and we would find rocks, patches of grass, and fallen tree branches to run to. We would scream, "Hot lava!" as we ran to the next patch that we could find. Whomever couldn't find something to move to would die in dangerous lava pits. We had a lot of fun taking turns and laughing, and we lost track of where we were and how long we had been playing as dusk started to come. I stopped and looked around and realized we were in a part of the woods that we hadn't been before. Normally we could see one of the houses, but we couldn't see any. Nothing. "Chucky, do you know which way back to Grand's house?" I asked her, no longer laughing as I jumped from the rock I had been sitting on. "I think it is..." She paused as she looked around us and, well, she said, "This way." I nodded as we started to head back, hungry for dinner and worn out for the day. We walked for about 10 minutes, talking about who won the most games and what we would do tomorrow. As we kept walking, I wasn't watching where I was going and ended up walking into a large rock. "Ouch," I said, grabbing my knee. My cousin laughed. "You never watch where you are going," she said. I mocked her back, embarrassed, of course, by hitting my knee. When I stopped and finally looked at the rock and quickly stumbled backwards. "Chucky, that isn't a rock. It is a headstone." I was freaked out, but my cousin got curious. "Let's see who is buried here," she exclaimed. Well, I reluctantly agreed. Now, we had stumbled upon what looked like an old family cemetery. Our family had owned the land for over 100 years, and it only made sense that they would find a place to bury their dead. Now, I read the names, and they were all of the same last name. It's true, they were all dead relatives. I was starting to get into looking at the names, no longer thinking about what was buried beneath my feet. Then there was about 8 graves in total, I counted. I was in my own world as I was standing in front of one and had dusted it off to read the name. My eyes lit up as I saw who it was. "Hey Chucky, this is Dickie, the brother that great-great-grandma got caught trying to run away with. Great-papa almost killed him, remember? Shot him in the leg, and he ended up being permanently crippled. His picture is the one that we found in the attic last summer." Now, I was in awe that I had found great-great-uncle Dickie's grave. His real name had been Richard, but everyone just called him Dickie. It was said that he had been buried in an unmarked grave somewhere on the property, since he was ashamed of what he had tried to do. The family had all but exiled him. Now, I reached forward to run my fingers along his name, when suddenly a cool breeze rustled the hair off my neck. I repressed a shiver. "Chucky, come see," I said, my voice just not holding as much enthusiasm as it had before. The air around me kept growing cooler and cooler, and it had seemed to get darker. I was now starting to feel unsettled as I backed away from the headstone, ready to forget great Uncle Dickie, and just head back to the house where there was light, warmth, and other people. Chucky still didn't answer me, and I was starting to get scared. I looked around. "Chucky? This isn't funny. Now isn't the time to hide." My voice shook as I spoke, and my palms had become sweaty. I looked around me, but I didn't see Chucky anywhere. "I'm not playing this game with you. I'm leaving," I called out, scared and wanting to leave. And I turned when I had felt a hand land on my shoulder, holding me in place, and a deep voice whispered, "She is mine." I screamed and I jumped back, pulling away, falling backwards as I tried to get away. The voice was too deep to be anything that could have been my cousin. I was breathing heavy, and my screams brought my cousin out of hiding. "Why are you screaming? I didn't even get to scare you," she said as she reached down to help me up. I tried to gather myself and explain to her what had happened, but I just couldn't find the words. My gaze searched the woods, searching for what I could have heard as my cousin went to look for the headstone. "Hey, this isn't Great Uncle Dickie's headstone, cuz. I don't know how hard you hit your head or something, but you read it wrong." My gaze went to the headstone and gasped. It now read William. I knew what I had read, and it did say Richard. It had been Uncle Dickie's headstone. The dates were changed as well, no longer the date that Uncle Dickie died. I don't want to be here anymore. Let's just go," I said. My cousin agreed, and we both started to run back to the house. And once we got there, the relatives had asked us where we had been, but we never told them exactly what had happened. I was too afraid that Uncle Dickie would be around, that somehow he followed us. And I never went back to that part of the woods again. Never. And I never stayed out that late again. This is Sharky with sharkgoeschomp. Let me know if you have any stories of your own about family graves and changing tombstones. Please subscribe for more stories, and you can send me your stories at stories, the number 4, sharky, @gmail.com. Have a good night.